Hello everyone, welcome to bisptrainings.com. My name is Sumit and in this video I will be going to tell you how to implement WCF services on various platforms. So in this example I am going to tell you the basics of WCF services and we will be going to implement one small example for same. So first let's understand what do you mean by WCF services. WCF stands for Windows Communication Foundation and it is a part of .NET 3.0. WCF is a Microsoft platform for building distributed and interoperable application. Distributed means we can build an application when we can create DLL files and those DLL files can be shared to other users and the users they can implement, they can add those DLL files in their solutions, they can implement those DLL files in the solutions and they can inherit the functionalities or implement the functionalities or the functions which are available in those DLL files, like as we used to do while installing the packages. WCF can support multiple languages and it can be worked on multiple platforms. So if I have created a language, if I have created a WCF DLL file and if I shared among users, so the different users they can access, they can implement that WCF file on different platforms. So let's understand it more about taking a scenario. Let's take a scenario that we have got two clients. There are two clients and they need to implement a service for them, or we have to build a service for them. We have two clients, client A and client B. So the first client is using Java application to interact with our service, and the second client, which is named as a client B, it will be using .NET for the better performance or for using or to interact with our services. So the first client, which is using Java application, the client want messages in XML format and the protocol to be HTTP. And the second client, which will be using .NET to interact with our services, that client wants the messages in the binary format and the protocol to be TCP. So if we have to build two separate applications, so if we are going to build the solution without using WCF services, so to satisfy the first client requirement, as I told you that the first client will be going to use the Java application to interact with our service. So we need to build a separate application or a separate web service which will be known as a .NET web service, and the client which will be using Java application can be accessed, our services can be interact with our services by using HTTP protocol, and the data can be transformed by using XML binary format. In similar way, if we talk about the second client, and to satisfy the second client requirement, because the second client is using the .NET application, so we need to build a .NET remoting services, and also we need to configure that it can be accessed through TCP format and the messages can be in the binary format messages, either in TCP or in binary format messages. So it means we are going to build two separate solutions if we are not using WCF services. But by using WCF services, or if we are implementing WCF services, instead of creating two separate applications, two separate services, we can create a common service, and the same service, the similar service can be accessed by the client 1 as well as client 2. So in this scenario, you can see I have built a WCF services and we set endpoints, and the client 1 who will be using Java application to interact with the service, he can extract, he can use the services in his format, and the client 2 who will be using the .NET application, that client can also interact with the similar web services by using its own protocol. So like this way, we don't need to set up, we don't need to create or build two different services for different platform. The same service will be accessed by the different clients, whether they are accessing this WCF services on different platforms, whether the client is using Java platform or a .NET platform or any other platform. So finally, the conclusion is WCF is a web service to exchange messages in XML format using HTTP protocol for interoperability. It's a remoting service to exchange messages in binary format using TCP protocol for performance. And at last, we'll be discussing implementing a single WCF service and configuring different endpoints to support different transport protocol and messages format. So let's build a small example and let's see how to use that WCF service or how to implement the WCF service in a solution. So in this example, in this video, I am going to build a WCF service which will be going to access by using a .NET application. So to build a WCF service, I am going to take help of Visual Studio .NET. So I open Visual Studio 2012, click on File, New, Project, and click on WCF Service Application. Okay. So you can have a look. A default service has been built with two files, iService1.cs and service1.svc. So first of all, I open iService1.cs and whatever content you are getting, I just delete the default content because I'm going to build my own content. So the very first thing I'm going to do is within this public interface iService1.cs, I built two functions, operation contract after this operation contract. All right, I create a function. So I create int my add data, and this will take two parameters, int v1 comma int v2. Then I want to create one more function. So every time you want to create a function, every time you need to specify this operation contract, and int my sub data int v1 comma int v2. That's all in this iService1.cs. Now double click on service1.svc. As you can see, I'm getting error messages because I have removed the supported file. So I delete this, and now we are left with the class service1 and the interface. That was the interface is iService1. So I right click on this interface and click on implement interface. So you can see here in this interface we have, because this is not a class, I have specified this as an interface, and in this interface there are two functions, my add data and my sub data. So these two functions are defined here, and it automatically implements here. And now I write return, this function will return v1 plus v2, and this function will return v1 minus v2. Save this and right click on it and build it, so that if any error will be there, it will show the error, it will display the errors here. So it has been succeeded. Now let's have a look how to access the web services in a .NET solution. So again I open a Visual Studio .NET, and this time I'm going to create a desktop application, Windows Form application. Open. You can choose any language. I'm comfortable with VC Sharp. You can go for Visual Basic as well. It's up to you. and in this form I'm going to design a form. So before designing a form, the first thing we have to do is we have to implement the libraries. We need to add the reference to the DLL file which we created here, which we built here. So WCF Service 3, it builds a DLL file, and that reference file we need to add into our solution. So once we done with this, we will be left with one DLL file which you can get it from Visual Studio 2000 at a specific location, and that is WCF Service 3. So I open WCF Service 3 bin, and we are left with this WCF Service 3.dll file. So I can share this file with my clients, my users, and they can add a reference of this WCF Service 3.dll file in their solution. So I'm going to do same here. I select reference, right click, add a reference, and browse projects WCF Service 3 bin and WCF Service 3.dll file, add, and OK. So the reference has been added. Now let's design a form. So in this form, I'm going to add two buttons, one for calling add function, one will call subtract function, one label to show the output, and two text boxes to get the input from the user. So I just designed this, and I set the properties as well. So I set this property as add, this property as subtract, sub, and the user will be going to input the numbers in this text box, and in this text box, when user click on add, it will add both the numbers whatever we entered into these two text boxes and display the output here, the result here. In similar way, if we click on subtract, we'll get the output here. So now I double click on add button, and here we need to define the library. So I'll specify WCF Service 3 dot iService1 then create one instance SVC equal to new service So I specify here new WCF Service 3 dot iService1, and then on this add button, when we click on this add button, from this WCF Service 1, I want to call this my data function, because we have already set a reference here, so we don't need to do anything else. I simple write, and I want to display the output in label 1, so I write label 1 dot text is equal to srv dot, and when you press dot, you can see we are getting the my add data function and my sub data function, and this function takes two inputs, two parameters, and data types are integer. So I double click it, and I write convert dot to int 32 text box 1 dot text, comma convert dot to int 32 text box 2 dot text, and at last finally convert into string and save as in a string format. In similar way, when user click on this subtract button, I just wanted to call the second function, and the second function is label 1 dot text is equal to srv dot my sub data, and rest of the thing is same. So I just copy it and paste it here, save it, and let's test it. So when I run it, I'll just pass 150. If I click on add, I got the output 150. If I click on sub, I got the output 50. So you can see like this we can call the functionality by using a web service. This is a one way of adding a service library in our solution. There is one more way to do same. Let's have a look for the second way as well. Now in order to get the second way, we need a URL, because in this case we are sharing the library, sharing the DLL file, but we can, if we are working, means if we are sharing the WCF service library on our local intranet or on our internet. So we can simply right click on service1.svc, click on view in browser. When I click on view in browser, you can see I've got a URL has been generated, http://localhost 5038 service1.svc. So I copy this, and in this thing, I'm just deleting it. I just remove it. Or let's do one thing. Let's create a fresh application. That would be a new window application, or we can go for a web application as well. So I'll create a new Windows application, and this time instead of adding the DLL file, I'm going to add a reference as a service reference. So I click on add service reference, provide the address here, click on go. When I click on go, it will look for the service iService1, and in this iService1 we have two functions, my add data and my sub data, and the namespace, the service reference namespace. This reference namespace can be changed as required. So I'll go with the default one and click on OK. So the reference has been added. Then we can design the form as it is. So I'll just do the same thing. I'm going to design the form, and let's add two buttons again, one label and two check boxes, 1 and 2. So this time I'm not going to customizing them. I'm just going to change their label, add and subtract. And now when we double click on it, because we have already set the reference, so we can implement here using service reference 1. So if you are not getting the service reference 1 here, no need to worry about that because it's already added. We can directly start building it. So I specify here service reference 1 dot iService. So sorry, not iService, it should be service client obj1 is equal to new service reference 1 dot service client. And then we can pass obj1 or label1 dot text is equal to obj1 dot, and we are getting the same functions, my add data and my sub data. So we can copy paste the code. So I just copy paste the code from there itself, and instead of svg and instead of srv I set obj1. And similar way, when user clicked on this button, we got this, paste it, and this instead of my add data I want to call obj1 dot my sub data, and save it and so you can see I'm getting the output. I entered 150 and click on add, I got the 150. If I change the value to 10 and click on subtract, I got 90. So that's how, these are the various ways to add a service web reference in this solution. The similar way we have added in .NET, we can add the service web reference, or we can add the WCF service which we have created, that DLL file we can add in Java libraries as well. So that's all in this video. If you have any questions, you can write to us on www.bisptrainings.com. You can subscribe our YouTube channel for more videos. Keep watching. Have a nice day. Goodbye.